Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Today we are here with another lecture of public administration. In previous lecture we have studied about the behavioral school, and now we will move towards the to achieve a specific goal or specific purpose. This theory basically provide an opportunity to look at organization as whole and as part of larger external environment. For example, there is an organization, there are different departments. First one is human resource department, then there is accounts department, then there is services department. Like in an organization, there are very different departments, and each of the department, there can be marketing department, and each of the work department work together to achieve a specific goal or purpose. They basically work at a larger scale, and ultimately the external environment uh, can also affect them, like if outside the organization, or if in other organization, or if in other parts of the world there have been some kind of changes in the world, then ultimately the organization has to adopt those changing. If the organization if the organization wanted to, we can say, uh, move with the modern system, then it has to do, it has to adopt all the modern system or all the modern structure. Then there are key concepts in the system school. These are following, or we could say, in system theory. First one is subsystem, the part that make up the whole. Like ultimately in every organization there are subsystems. How there are some subsystems? The subsystems, we can say, are the different department of the organization. As we all know that one organization doesn't work with one system, it has like different kind of system ultimately. uh, how like if there is an organization, or we can say if there is, yes, there is an organization, then that organization will have human relations school, human resource, marketing department, it will have accounts department, it will have some production department, it will have a boss ultimately. So these are different subsystems that make up a whole organization. Then synergy, whole is greater than the sum of its parts, the combined effect of the system. Like ultimately if we look towards the work of each of the system or task by each of the system, until each of the system won't perform its task, the combined effort, this will be the like if one of the system doesn't perform its task, it means that system is not working properly. Because whenever we perform a task, uh, each of the subsystem or each of the department of the organization perform its task, and then ultimately the like their performance is combined as a whole, and then that performance basically affect on the system. Then how it basically affects the system? So each of the department combine like work effectively at individual level, then their tasks are combined ultimately, and then that combined task basically affect the system boundary separate system from the external environment. There is some boundary which separate the system from external environment. How it separate the external environment? Like within an organization there is a different kind of system. Like there is a proper environment, we can say, uh, like there is some sort of environment which is to be followed in an organization, and the external environment is different. If we talk about the like private organization who are performing their task very effectively and very efficiently, and if we compare to the external scenario in Pakistan, where there are many public departments and they are not performing as good as the performance of the private organization, this means that the private system separate itself from the external environment that it couldn't affect the environment of their system, because ultimately the private system can earn only in a way when they will perform services. And if they will not perform their services, people won't hire them for their services, or people will not get their services in future anymore. Then open and closed system that interacts with its environment is open system, and the system which doesn't interact with its environment is basically a closed system. Like we can say that if we talk about a UFO, they have interacted with the outer environment, and because of that interaction they have signed a memo, or signed a we can say signed a document with PTCL, and because of which now they are an open system. They have their like they have their a back of state at their back, like they have a hand of state at their back ultimately, and which can help them a lot to grow. But if we compare the closed system doesn't have much opportunities to grow further. Then feedback return of information to the organization. The figure below shows that the feedback mechanism. Next, we will see that feedback mechanism, that how the feedback is given. An organization give the input. The input is in the form of human resource, it is in the form of financial resources, it is in the form of some physical resources. Human resource, the people who are working in the organization. Financial, the amount that is to be invested for the production of goods or services. And physical means if someone is performing as like if someone is performing some kind of task, someone is giving his services, it means that is physical. And if we are providing with some kind of products, then that is physical. Then transformation, use of process to change the goods and services. For example, here we will provide the raw material, and at this process we will perform that raw material into goods and services. Like here, if we talk about the services, we will hire doctors, we will hire teachers, and in this process we will ask them to provide their services. Doctor will provide his services, teacher will provide his services. About the goods, if we like at this process, if we are purchasing sugar cane, at this process we will be converting it in the sugar, then the products, and at the end there is a final product that is in the form of goods and services. Like if people will get the services, they will further give the feedback that how was the services, and if they will purchase the goods, they will give their feedback that how what was the quality of those goods. Now the feedback is given as the customer will use those products. The customer will give feedback to the major point, to the main point, like to the organization, that what was the quality of their good, if it was good or it was bad. And this is how the circle basically runs. Like ultimately then we will follow the same process: input to transformation, transformation to products, and further the products, if we wanted to improve the organization further, then feedback will be given to the organization, and organization can further work on it ultimately to make a better change. Then power and politics school. The previous one was system school, and now we have moved towards the power and politics. Politics is about controlling resources, material, human, financial, and information, etc. It is also about the distribution of resources, who gets what, who, how, when, and where. Politics is often understood as undesirable because it is perceived as maneuvering and manipulation by the people. So politics is all about when someone basically control the resources of the state, and resources includes material. Material means are like natural resources, we can say. Then human, the human resource in the organization. Finances, the like financial resources which are to be earned by selling some kind of products or some kind of services or some kind of natural resources. Then there is information, like the information is ultimately get whatever the information is. That can be internal information of the state, that can be external information for the state. So politics basically control all of these resources, and then it decide, like of course there are different part of a state, so it is the politics which basically decide that which part of the word will receive what, like who gets what, how, when, and where. So, if we talk about Pakistan, the politics basically decide, like if it is a political system, of course, then political bits basically decide that what would be the part of Punjab, what would be the part of Sindh in for the resources, what would be the part of KPK in the resources, and what would be the part of Balochistan in the resources ultimately. Like they will decide the percentage each of the province will get, and as well as we can say Kashmir, and now we know that Gilgit Baltistan is also a part. So yes, Gilgit Baltistan. So we basically decide that which part of the state required how much resources, and ultimately that is to be divided according to their needs and according to their we can say according to their uh, yes, needs, exactly. So who gets one, what, ultimately, how, like in which form we will provide them the services or their part. If we will decide that they can collect their own resources by their own self, or we will decide that how the resources will be distributed among them, and when the distributed will be distributed among them, and where the distributed resources will be distributed with them. So politics is often understood as sorry, understood as undesirable because it is perceived as maneuvering and manipulation by the people. Like in politics, it is the people who basically runs the whole structure of the government. So it is basically perceived that these are the people who has the hold on all the resources of the state, and they basically further manipulate the resources of the state. Then there is power. Power is synonymously defined with authority. Authority comes with the job that one is holding, and power and authority are perceived as one, although power subsumes authority. So basically, power can be also used as authority, and authority always comes with a job. Keep remember in your mind that power never comes with a job. Until you don't have an authority, you can't exercise that power legally. Like to exercise power legally, you need authority ultimately, and for authority you need some job, like you have to be holding some office, and where you can perceive your power and authority as one, although power subsumes authority. Like ultimately, uh, it is basically connected with the authority. If someone is using power and he doesn't have authority, it means he is using an illegal use of power, or he is doing an illegal use of power. But when you are using a legal power, it means the legal power is always attached with some authority, and authority is always attached with some job or with holding the office. Okay. Then power and politics school views authority as only one of the available source for organizational power. Like as we know that power and politics school basically explains that whenever there will be authority, then there will be power. If you don't have authority, it means you won't have any kind of power. So first one is legitimate power. What is basically a legitimate power? Like legitimate power means the someone has a legal authority of exercising power. Someone has a legal authority of exercising the power. How this they will have a legal authority? Like a bureaucrat has a legal authority, a judge has the legal authority to exercise the power. Someone who's working in any governmental or private organization has the legitimate power. Like ultimately, law or the rule book of that organization or state defend that power. Law or rule book of that particular state defend that power. Then there is reward and punish power. For example, we can say like our parents. If we are doing something good, they will reward us with something good. If if we will be doing something bad, what we would be given, they will reward us with some kind of punishment. Then there is like foreign relations. Okay, if we have maintained some very good relation with any of the state, then the state will provide us with some kind of reward. Like it can provide us with investment, it can provide us like our people with some kind of free visas, or they can insert our people in their state, and they can provide them jobs, and by investing in our state they will give us a huge favor. And if we will maintain not good relation with the state will finish its relation with us, and ultimately at the end of the day we will have nothing. Then same is with the different departments. Like if we can say the police department, as they are working, they have a 24/7 duty. Then what state should do? They must provide them with some kind of reward and some kind of punishment, and the state must give the higher authority with some power, that if someone is doing its task in a good way, they must provide them with reward, and if they are like doing something bad, or they are affecting the state system, so then they must get some kind of punishment. Then there is expert power. Like we can say it as the word came from experience. If I am a person who is teaching from last 5 years, and then there is a person who is teaching from last 1 year, of course I have seen more people, I will have more experience than this particular person. So this is the kind of power I have. Like if I am working in an organization, then my opinion will consider as more valid opinion than this person who is working only for 1 year. Reason? Because I have seen the system very closely, and ultimately I can explain, or I can tell that how this particular thing should work. And this person can of course give his opinion, but this would be at not as good as with by some person who has a 5 year experience, like who has been in the department for 5 years. Then there is some kind of reference power, or we can this words basically reference come from reference. Like someone is working in organization from past 15 years, and ultimately some new person is hired in the department, so this reference can ultimately work for the recruitment of a new person, because they will consider that yes, if this person is working his task in a very like good manner, then he can of course recommend a person who is good in providing his, or who is good in his services, of course. Then there's conflict. Conflict is a natural outcome of the close interaction of the people. Like whenever people have a close interaction, there might be some conflict. Like if I will be giving my opinion about something, and someone else is giving his opinion about something, that is very rare that both of us would get agree on a point. but usually what we will have some sort of conflict, right? That would be a conflict. It is defined as a difference, disagreement, and dissension. Like when there is the difference of opinion, when we are disagreed on some things, and when there is dissension. When there is disagreement and dissension, people will have a viewpoint and suggestion that is different. Like ultimately, if we talk about the state will wanted to work on some certain like policy, and people will wanted the state to work on a very different policy. So what this would be, this would be a disagreement or dissension. In order to have their views prevail, people will try to find means by which give and take will occur. We can say okay, that on some of their points they will compromise, on some of their points they will compromise, and at the end of the day they will be agree on a say on going for a same way. Then, therefore, individuals and groups will use power and political activity to handle their differences and manage conflict. Like individual, even if it is an individual or if it is a group or even it is a political structure, then they will use their power and their political activity to handle their differences and manage conflict. If there are two political parties, of course we can say this is political party A and this is political party B. Both of these have different point of view, means there is a conflict. So what they will do, they both of these groups will perform their political activity, both of these groups will use their powers, and ultimately they will like of course they are creating a conflict in the mind of people as well. So now that depends on their political activity and their power, then how they will create a difference in among the people, and people will be able to choose one of the group as their leading group. Yes, this is how the conflict work. Of course, there is always a conflict, like positive or negative impact of the conflict. Of the conflict, the positive effect is when manager agreed to some new viewpoints of the disagreeing group or group of individuals. Like if there is an organization, uh, like there is working in organization where there is top level management and there is middle level management, and top level management decide about something, but middle level management considered that if we would add some things or we would change somehow the decision, then we can perform in a more better way. So this is the positive effect. And when there is a conflict, can be a like positive force because it it also challenges the status quo, encourages the new ideas and approaches, and leads to change ultimately. Like the next positive impact can be like if top level management won't make it as a egoistic issue, and they will accept the like we can say the ideas by the middle level management, then the organization can perform in a more positive way. The force will perform in a more positive way, and it will, and because it challenges the status quo. What does status quo mean? The constant way of doing things. Like ultimately you are just quite about doing some task because you consider that if I will talk, then there might be some kind of unrest. Same is with the state. If people won't talk, it means um, the politic will do whatever they wanted to do. So there might be the conflict between the opinion of the politicians and the general public. But what people has to do, what politician has to do, they have to accept the right demands by the public, and they have to make their point justified if public is demanding something wrong. Then there is organizational behavior, political behavior, that how organizational behave in a political way. But the political activity takes place inside or outside the organization. most of the times we have seen that in different organizations the posters like there is a poster that the political talk is not allowed in that place. So the organization which allow the political activity, even like some people can come and they can talk about some political party and anything inside or outside the organization, the direction of the attempted influence vertically or we can say literally in the organization, uh, uh, the directions are given vertically or literally. Like if top level management is deciding something, middle will ultimately accept it, and then bottom will or lower level management will accept it. So there are some kind of influence by top on the middle and middle on the lower level management. Like there will be exercise or use of power by top level management on middle and middle level management on lower level management. The legitimacy of the political action, they will have a legal right for that political action. Like if we talk about the National Assembly, or we can say about the Parliament, or we can say about like our Parliament or a Senate, they can do any kind of political activity within the premises. It is basically the Prime Minister which basically gives the direction, and they have the legal, like constitutional power to exercise this whole thing. Okay, thank you so much. This is it for today. Hope to see you in the next lecture. And if you have any queries, please ask.